Well, for more on the aviation industry, Matt Driskill, editor of Asian Aviation, joins us via Skype this morning. Matt, good morning to you. So, listen, if you were to square up these two industrial aviation giants, which one would you say is in a better position to weather the post-recovery from COVID-19?
Well, you've done all the work for me this morning by giving out all the numbers and everything, so you made my job a lot easier, Adam. Good morning to you. Hope everybody's staying safe. As to your question directly, I would say Airbus, actually, at this time, is probably better positioned simply because it's a very simple reason. You cannot fly internationally, which you would normally do in a wide-body jet, like a 787 or an A350 or something like that. And so the single-aisle planes, the narrow bodies, as they're called, the 737 MAX, for example, or the A320, everybody in the industry, if you and your producers have been like me watching all the webinars that unfortunately come on at night here in Singapore, the narrow body, the single aisle planes are going to come back faster. And unfortunately for Boeing, its best-selling jet, the 737 MAX, is still grounded, and there's still no clear indication of when it will be approved to fly again. And there was a Wall Street Journal story that came out, I believe, yesterday or the day before, where they were talking about a criminal investigation into Boeing because of the foreign object debris that was being found in the fuel tanks of MAX planes that had been produced but that were sitting, that were parked, they hadn't been delivered yet. So when domestic markets take off again, we've seen some action in China. You'll see domestic flying in Australia. New Zealand shut down for the moment, but they've got a large domestic network as well. You'll see that come back. Any market with a large domestic network will see those narrow-body, single-aisle planes come back, and I think Airbus is better positioned for that.
That said, Boeing is bringing back production of the MAX jets, albeit curtailed production. I mean, we're not talking about the absolute disappearance of the jet. I mean, eventually they will get it back approved, I would take it.
Well, you know, it was supposed to be approved already, for example, but before Dennis Muhlenberg was unceremoniously shown the door as CEO, he managed to upset the Federal Aviation Administration. The FAA felt that he was being too pushy. He was trying to set the timeline. And the problem is, they keep finding problems with the MAX. You know, one day originally it was the MCAS software which kept pushing the nose of the plane down. Then they tried to do another fix, and another software problem came up. Now they're finding foreign object debris, or FOD as it's called, in the planes. So it's a huge question of when the MAX is actually going to be able to fly again. Who knows?
I want to get to the issue of what the future looks like for both Airbus and Boeing, because, I mean, going through this, you know, tragedy in the aviation sector, what it is going to require is a whole lot more capital. And both of these industrial giants going to the respective governments saying, you know what, we need some help here. I mean, the U.S. has made it an issue with Airbus in terms of subsidies. Do you think that that argument is now going to be, well, put aside because Boeing is pretty much in the same position?
Yeah, I think Boeing it's like during the global financial crisis, certain U.S. banks were considered too big to fail. And so you had a lot of the investment banks. J.P. Morgan survived, some of the others survived, Citibank survived. So they were considered too big to fail. Boeing is too important of an industrial company. Not only do they make commercial planes, but they've got a huge, I mean, they are, you know, one of the key pillars of the U.S. and international defense industry, and their global services program as well, although that's been hurt by the lack of MRO. But Boeing is one of those companies in the U.S. that is basically considered too big to fail. What the aid looks like, if Boeing does decide to accept aid, you know, they're very hesitant to let the government take equity in the company, and so they've done other things. Just hours before the results were announced, Reuters was reporting that Boeing was working with investment banks on a bond deal that might be worth about $10 billion. They announced during the earnings that they were drawing down on a term loan facility. Everybody's in a survival mode.
Okay.
But yeah, I think if the aid package is done properly, I think Boeing will take it, and I think they'll have to.
Yep, sounds like the new reality. Matt, thank you so much for talking to me this morning. I was Matt Driskill, editor of Asian Aviation. Pardon me. We're going off for a quick break. Stay with us on the show.